The fall of an empire is rarely a quiet affair. When the golden house of Angelina collapsed under the immense weight of a sudden and brutal separation in 2016, the world witnessed an absolute explosion of toxic headlines, bitter court battles, and public declarations of independence from the family's eldest sons, Maddox and Paxthene. But away from the loud, aggressive battlegrounds of the legal courtrooms and the predatory flashbulbs of the global paparazzi, the emotional survival of the fractured Jolie-Pitt family relied entirely on a silent, immovable anchor. Born in the deeply impoverished, drought-stricken lands of Awassa, Ethiopia, and adopted straight into the absolute pinnacle of Western billionaire privilege, Zahara Jolie-Pitt has spent her entire life walking gracefully between two vastly different conflicting worlds. While her brothers deployed defensive walls of icy silence and volcanic fury to process their pain, Zahara chose a weapon of a completely different nature, the enduring power of soft, unifying leadership, elite academic excellence, and unapologetic cultural pride. Today we pull back the curtain on the extraordinary, untold journey of Zahara Jolie, the daughter who transformed from a frail infant escaping structural tragedy into the unbreakable emotional backbone of her family, and the first sister to fundamentally redefine what it truly means to bear the Jolie legacy in the modern era. To truly comprehend the unique, quiet psychological strength that Zahara possesses today, one must first look back to the incredibly fragile and perilous beginnings of her life in East Africa. Born in January 2005, her arrival into the world was marked by extreme systemic hardship, severe poverty, and a lack of basic medical infrastructure. Surviving acute malnutrition, dehydration, and dangerous health complications in her first months of existence, her survival was nothing short of a biological miracle. In July 2005, Angelina Jolie, accompanied by her very young eldest son, Maddox, traveled to Ethiopia on a critical United Nations humanitarian mission. It was during an emotional visit to a local orphanage that their paths crossed with the 6-month-old baby girl. The spiritual connection within the family was instantaneous and profound. A young Maddox famously blew a tender kiss to the fragile infant and expressed a deep protective desire to his mother for an African sibling to look after. Jolie finalized the complex adoption process amidst a storm of international media attention. And just like that, Zahara became the second child to join the rapidly expanding household, long before the mainstream media ever coined the commercial term Brangelina. When Brad Pitt formally and legally adopted her a year later, changing her name to Jolie-Pitt, her status as Hollywood's most protected, jet-setting princess was solidified. Yet from her earliest formative years, Zahara displayed a calm, observant dignity and an internal grounding that completely refused to be corrupted by the shallow luxury and vanity surrounding her daily life. As the middle sister and the eldest daughter in a hyper-famous household of 6 children, Zahara naturally and quietly became the invisible glue of the multicultural family. While Maddox was the intellectual pioneer who forged the path toward higher education, and Pax was the fierce, outspoken protector who absorbed the media's blows, Zahara developed into the ultimate emotional caretaker and peacekeeper. She possessed a rare maternal emotional intelligence from a very young age, instinctively knowing how to manage the complex psychological dynamics between her adopted and biological siblings who hailed from entirely different corners of the globe. When the catastrophic, highly publicized private jet incident of 2016 permanently fractured their family structure and plunged them into an agonizing decade of isolating legal warfare, it was Zahara who stood firmly and quietly by her mother's side as an unyielding pillar of strength. She did not seek out public attention, write angry posts, or engage in tabloid mudslinging. Instead, she focused her immense energy entirely on maintaining the internal peace, sanity, and stability of the family sanctuary that Angelina was trying to protect for her younger, highly vulnerable twin siblings, Knox and Vivian. She chose to heal her family from the inside out, proving that grace is often the most resilient form of defiance. Her definitive response to her family's public trauma was not to run away into hiding or rebel against her roots, but to lean heavily into community, higher intellect, and systemic leadership. In the autumn of 2022, Zahara marked a massive, historic milestone by enrolling at Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia, a historically black liberal arts institution globally renowned for nurturing independent, politically conscious, and powerful black women leaders. Her choice of higher education was a highly deliberate, politically potent statement of self-determination. Instead of hiding behind her immense Hollywood privilege, pursuing an easy lifestyle, or staying safely confined to the elite, predominantly white celebrity circles of Los Angeles, Zahara made the conscious choice to fully immerse herself in her African-American heritage. She chose to surround herself with a legacy of sisterhood and earn her education through rigorous academic discipline, long hours of studying, and genuine merit. Her family's absolute devotion to her choice was put on full public display when her older brother Maddox skipped his own busy academic routines to travel all the way to Atlanta just to help his sister carry heavy boxes and move into her college dorm room, illustrating the fierce, unbreakable bond between the siblings. The true, defining manifestation of her public autonomy and personal identity occurred in late 2023 during a formal historic ceremony at Spelman College, as she was officially inducted into the prestigious Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, the first intercollegiate historically African-American sorority in existence. Zahara stood confidently and radiantly before a crowded room of her academic peers. Stepping up to the microphone with absolute poise, she loudly, clearly, and proudly introduced herself to the gathered audience, shouting with immense joy, "My name is Zahara Jolie." The deliberate, highly public omission of the surname Pitt was a seismic historical declaration that echoed across the global entertainment industry. Unlike her sister Shiloh, who would later utilize the cold legal court system to drop the name on paper, Zahara used the raw power of the spoken word, cultural sisterhood, and public performance to announce her true allegiance. She was declaring to the world that her identity was not defined by a Hollywood patriarch, but was formed entirely by the heroic mother who saved her life, the African heritage she passionately reclaimed, and the loyal siblings who were cheering for her from the audience. Today, Zahara Jolie stands as a brilliant, self-determined leader who has successfully bypassed the hollow, often destructive trap of being a Hollywood nepotism baby or a shallow social media influencer. She has channeled her privilege into real-world change, launching her very own high-end jewelry line, the Zahara Collection, and deliberately directing 100% of the global proceeds to shelters and organizations that support victims of domestic violence, unhoused individuals, and marginalized women. She has seamlessly and beautifully balanced the complex world of international diplomacy, frequently accompanying her mother to the Capitol in Washington, D.C., to advocate directly to senators for the reauthorization of the Violence Against Women Act, with the grounded, hard-working reality of a dedicated university student. Watch her in any recent real-world footage. She carries herself with a striking grace and effortless style, and a diplomatic poise that perfectly mirrors her mother's finest humanitarian qualities. Zahara's journey stands as an inspiring, powerful proof that the ultimate survival mechanism in the face of immense family trauma and public scrutiny is not bitterness or public resentment, but the relentless building of a purposeful, independent, and honorable life. Together with Maddox, Pax, and Shiloh, she has successfully helped construct an impenetrable generational shield that protects the emotional integrity of their family. She has proven that you do not need to fight with loud anger or public violence to win a war against the past. From the fragile, uncertain orphanages of Ethiopia to the empowering, historic halls of Atlanta, Zahara Jolie has shown the entire world that the most powerful revolution a person can achieve is simply standing tall, knowing exactly who you are, and anchoring the people you love with absolute, quiet, and beautiful grace.